Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be diagnosing and repairing a very common concern on the Dolphin Active 20 pool cleaner. So what I'm finding is my pool cleaner is not working, and when I turn the panel on with it plugged in and make a selection, the panel immediately turns off. If I unplug the cable and I disconnect the cleaner from the panel stays on. I can make selections. No issues here. The panel stays on like it's supposed to. So we're going to do some easy diagnosing today, and then I'm going to show you what the common problem on these is. So for this repair, we're only going to need 3 tools. We're going to need a multimeter or a voltmeter. We're going to need a pair of pliers. We're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. So the first thing we want to do is test our control panel to make sure that this is putting the proper voltage out to our pool cleaner. When this is working properly, it should put out about 30 volts, 30 DC volts when it is turned on. So we're going to take a look at the end of our cable, and we've got 2 contacts in here. We want to see where those line up in conjunction to the socket up here. All right, so on our socket, our contacts line up in these 2 bottom holes. So we're going to take the ends of our voltmeter, and we're just going to slide the probes in there like that. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but you just want to make sure they're about halfway in there. All right, next we want to make sure that our meter is set to DC volts, because this takes AC current and turns it into DC current to send out to the pool cleaner. We want to set at the 200 volt selection, and we're going to turn our meter on. And with the unit off, we've got about 3 DC volts going out to our probes, which is going to be normal. This is always going to push a little bit of voltage. What we're looking for is when we turn the control panel on, we should see about 30 DC volts. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on, and you'll see that we're at 29.4, which is right at 30 DC volts. So this tells me that this control panel is working the way it's supposed to, and that our problem is in the pool cleaner itself. All right, so we know that our control panel is good, and we need to kind of break this down by component, because we don't want to just say that our pool cleaner itself is bad. So the next component that connects the control panel to our pool cleaner itself is going to be the cable. So we're going to do some testing on the cable, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. All right, so to test the cable, we need to disconnect it from the pool cleaner. So there's a couple steps we have to take there. First, we're going to take our lid off and pull our filter box out. You don't need to take the lid off, but it makes it easy, and this is super easy to come out. So you just kind of tap it and slide it off of the pins here, and we'll set that aside. Next, with your Phillips head screwdriver, we need to take this white cowling off. So there's going to be 2 Phillips head screws that we're going to remove. All right, and then we can kind of pull this cowling off. Now the cable does go through the cowling right here. There's just a rubber grommet, so you're going to kind of slide that up like this, and we can pull this grommet out of the cowling, and we'll set that off to the side. Next, we need to pull this intake off. This just slides on here, so you're just going to slide it straight off, and that gives us access to the cable right here. All right, so now we've got access to where the cable goes into the motor, and what we need to do is right here there's a white clip, and you can just take your Phillips head screwdriver and pry that clip down, and that'll allow you to unloop the cable. Next, we need to unscrew this nut right here. It's not on super tight, but it does get a little bit of corrosion on it from being in the water constantly. So I take my channel locks and just loosen it up like that. And then you can kind of get in there with your fingers and unscrew this nut. You can slide the nut up. There's an orange like gasket to help with water, and then that's where your cable is, and this just unplugs. So you're just going to pull straight up, and your cable comes right out. All right, next, now that we've got our cable disconnected from the pool cleaner, we're going to measure our wires in our cable for continuity to make sure that they're connected properly. So we need to set our DVOM to a setting that looks like this. It's going to have the ohms signal or the ohm sign on it, and we need to be there. And then we can turn our meter on. And what this is going to do is you'll connect one end of the lead to one side of the wire, one end of the lead to the other side of the wire. And if the wires are connected properly, we should hear sound like this. Okay, so right now this tells me that there's continuity that there's a complete circuit when we touch these two leads together. There's a complete circuit, and we should hear that same sound if our cable is good. All right, so I have the two ends of the cable in my hand. This is the end that connects to the control panel. This is the end that we just pulled out of the pool cleaner. And what we want to do is we want to see if we've got connection from this post here to one of these posts here, and then this post here to one of these posts here. If we do, then we know our cable's good. If not, then we know our cable's bad. So what you want to do is take one of your leads and just slide it in there. And then you want to take your other lead, and there is a little slot right here on the end of this, and that's kind of where you want to touch your lead. So we'll touch this side here, and we've got no sound from the meter, so that tells me that this wire does not connect to that. And we'll test this one here, and again we have no sound, which tells me that this wire is probably broken in there. That tells me that this cable here is broken, and this is a very common concern on these pool cleaners. This wire is constantly twisting and bending, and over time it causes the wires inside of the blue sheathing here to break, and when that happens, your pool cleaner doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So I purchased a new cable off of Amazon. It cost about $110 for the cable shipped. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back together. There is a cutout here on the plug that goes into the pool cleaner that lines up with a tab inside of the plug. So you just want to make sure you line those up properly. So we're going to go ahead and slide that in there. Then we're going to take the nut and thread that on. And we're going to take our channel lock pliers. You don't want this really, really tight, just snug so that it doesn't loosen up. All right, so we've got that tightened. We need to route the cable. So inside here, there's a little black loop that the cable goes around like this. And then in that white clip, there's a half circle cutout that cable fits into. And this is probably the most difficult part of the job is getting this to line back up properly. So you're just gonna kind of fish around in there. It's really hard to see. So I've got that lined up. You can take your screwdriver and kind of help you get leverage to clip that back in like that. That is probably the hardest part about the job. And then we would just want to feed that cable in a little bit and take up a little bit of that slack. Next, we can put our intake back on, and that just slides on like this. Okay, and then we can take our cowling and put it on. Now the grommet here needs to slide into this cowling here, and it's a little bit of a difficult job. You got to kind of squeeze that rubber piece in half a little bit, and it just slides on like that, just like that. Okay, now we can put our cowling in place. You'll need to pull that cable up as you slide that cowling down so everything lines up properly. Okay. Then we can put our screws back in. So these screws you don't want to over tighten because it will strip out the housing, and then you've got to try and do a thread repair on plastic, which is not super easy. We get that screw in. We'll get this screw in. Okay, make sure that all looks good. Next, we can snap our lid back on. So that just kind of slides in here. Give it a little snap on the back. We'll put our filter basket back in and close the lid down. All right, so now that we've got our new cable installed, I've got it plugged into the control panel already. We're gonna go ahead and turn this on, and we're going to select a cycle. And if this works, I can hear our pool cleaner turning on. I've got the light blinking in the back to indicate that it is working, and it's starting to move. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the panel off, and we're going to throw this in the pool and make sure it works properly. Let's talk about cost for this repair. So I was able to get this cable off of Amazon for $110. The screwdriver and pliers I already had. I also had the multimeter, but if you needed to purchase one of those, they run about $20 to $30 at Harbor Freight. So all in, you should be somewhere around $140 to fix this common problem on the Dolphin Active 20. I did call my local pool supply store to see what it would cost to diagnose and repair a cable, and I was given an estimate of about $300 plus tax. So by taking 20 minutes out of our day, doing some diagnosing, installing the part ourselves, we saved about $150. This is a very common problem on most pool cleaners because this cable twists and bends and gets pulled. So super easy to repair. If you have an issue with yours, I would encourage you to try this. I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next video.